Looking at the mayor's. Yeah, you can get quiet.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear the owl, but I don't hear it that much. And yes, 0-0 in what was clearly
Right.
the most.
Right.
Yeah, but we could afford not to.
We're gonna call to order.
They needed to win. I was shocked that.
7:01. We'll do roll call. We can't, who's not here? Okay.
President Valerie Reinfeller,
Here.
Council Vice President Diane Law,
Here.
Councilmember Shirley Blair Fleur is not present. Councilmember Brooke Brucette Williams is not present.
Okay.
Did we say the second time that this happened or the first time? When did we decide on our owl issue?
Oh, she can now hear us. Great. Ashley, just to confirm, you can hear us? Can you unmute yourself, Ashley?
Yes, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys fine and you look fine too.
Great, thank you.
Here's that again.
New haircut.
Councilmember Brooke Brucette Williams is not in attendance. Councilmember Deb Cassini Klein.
Here.
Councilmember Andrea DeSillo.
Here.
Councilmember Jay Dorn
I'm still here.
and Mayor Paul Gamrat.
Here.
Thank you. Oh, we'll start our public comment from Churchill Borough residents and taxpayers. If you are online, please raise your hand, state your full name and street address, and you have 3 minutes.
Have the, reflect that Councilmember Brooke Brucette Williams is here. Thank you. If there's anyone online that would like to make a comment, please raise your hand and we'll promote you.
No comments, we'll close public comment. Moving on to our discussion items. Any questions regarding the draft meeting minutes from March 4th? Yeah. Okay, Siri. Any other staff reports or agency reports?
I just want to make a note if I can. President.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there were some reports that we just got today. I did add those to the binder. So if you looked on the OneDrive, you will notice some of those were added to the binder. We did get some late on Friday, so those were added as well. We got some from the library, WPJWAs. Mr. Williams said that. We got Aaron Price from the library. The firefighters was just sent in today. So if you look at the OneDrive, you'll be able to find those reports.
Yeah, I just want to mention that the property safety specialist, we have a report this month from him about all the various things that have been happening, and it's looking good, and he's going for the training to be certified, and
You'll be there all next week.
yeah, so we're pleased with that.
Madam President.
Yeah.
If I can, please,
Absolutely.
just like take a little break here. I invited Officer State to come in at the beginning of the meeting to meet the council members and everyone who hasn't met her as of yet. So I wanted to just have her come in and say hello to everybody, meet everyone at the council. Because she's working right now. We don't want to get it through the whole meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
Not only have I met her, I've met siblings.
Yeah.
And she's very happy with the law.
Good.
Do you know everybody now?
Yes,
Do you know? everybody?
sure.
Yep.
Did you know?
I think maybe
Well,
she-
yeah.
I don't think
Met
maybe
one.
she's met Shirley, I think it's the only one maybe you have not met. Yeah, yeah, she's not here today.
Yeah, well, and she's only been here a couple of months. so.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a story I heard from her brother. Yeah, her brother works up at Trinidad, with my daughter's school. So
Oh, okay.
that's where, yeah, community day, that's it. Let's keep your eyes open.
Any other comments regarding the staff reports? The other reports?
I'm running. I got you.
Madam President, any update, anything that I had, did you want me to give that now, or did you want me, is there a particular other time that maybe?
The next meeting? You can,
Oh, okay.
you're welcome to,
Okay.
yeah, we usually do that at the next meeting.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah. We can move over to the committee reports.
You look like-
We'll get you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. You're welcome anytime to drop by.
Like
Sometimes
the
we have snacks.
Like I got real shorts, but it's-
Well, we have some snacks back there. Some snacks back there.
Visitor.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Thank you for doing that, because I know not everybody might have met her, so I think that's important.
Yeah, she wasn't on, she just started working 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. and right now she's covering the 3 to 11, but she was daylight for a majority of last year.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, anybody's interested in doing that.
Yeah,
obviously.
Dennis can, you know, certainly not the whole time, but if they want to, you know, first 10 minutes or so, I think it's nice for our residents too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hmm?
All right. Management Government Committee, we have not met recently. I had some health stuff happen.
I did want to just
Yeah.
bring something up for
Yeah.
folks. It happens in my day space, but I'll bring it to us when we meet. Which is Connect, right? The magical world of Connect. So, it turns out that, in my day job, right, I trained Connect on fair housing space. And met with them on what was the Pro NOFA, which is the pathways to removing obstacles to affordable housing.
Mhm.
Which is a NOFO, meaning a notice of funding opportunity. And where it has value is that they're trying to build a cohort. Inside the cohort, which I would suggest, and we'll talk as a committee, but I'm just kind of bringing this up now. Inside the cohort, the opportunity within that particular NOFO is to gain funding to redo your zoning. Right.
Oh.
And so there's a clear opportunity. And much like when Connect first came on and we were one of the first municipalities to jump into
Right.
space,
Mhm.
and the fact that it's something that actually is getting pushed from my world,
Mhm.
right? There's an opportunity for us to gain access to funding to redo our zoning. And so, but that starts with building the cohort because it's a federal fund of a substantial amount of money.
Mhm.
City of Pittsburgh has applied and has gotten the previous year, which we worked with them on.
Mhm.
Question about that, is that related to affordable housing only?
So it is a question of access to affordable housing,
Okay.
which means that zoning is one of the key elements. So how you do zoning, for instance, the way that we're set up currently, right? Like, have we looked at the Schaefer site in terms of multifamily or
Affordable housing.
affordable housing
Yeah.
or density,
Okay.
right? Not necessarily affordable housing, but the question of zoning density, right?
Mhm.
So right now, it'd be kind of difficult to put senior housing over there without changing zone, right?
Mhm.
So it doesn't necessarily equate to, and we've actually had this whole conversation on a bigger picture of other areas, within the NOFO itself. So it doesn't necessarily simplify to what is affordable housing as the idea of access to affordable housing. And there's a nuanced difference.
Yeah.
People, when they think of affordable housing, they generally think of subsidized housing, which is not the same as affordable
No,
housing,
no.
So I think understanding that and getting it in the space of access to the zoning at step one, I think is an appealing prospect for that.
Cool, would love to
Great.
chat about that more.
So,
Right.
absolutely.
Sounds promising.
Yep.
Never know.
It should be, and it's something that I think you've seen in Connect. That when we did the first fair housing training and introduced it. It was a big push that we came back and the mayor was there for that. Then we came back to the second one. I know I wasn't there. Megan did that one. So my old COO, who's on the CEO. And then we'll come back and do a third after we just met with them as a team. So.
Great. Alrighty, moving on to finance committee.
Yes, I mean, we had a great meeting. We had discussed, the police car, the total cost would be about $60,000. We went through the capital, we received $100,000 from the liquid fuels. We discussed cutting back on the paving a little bit this year, just because we did a ton last year and just to kind of keep everything going the right way, because we're on track of this year. Another big one we talked about was the sewer budget, and unfortunately, at the end of the year, we won't have enough money, so we're gonna have to do something about that. We looked into, possibly raising the sewer fees, just because we have to.
Yeah.
Not because we want to, but
Yeah.
other things like we have a dim study we're gonna look at, and does it make sense study?
Yeah.
And just to make sure the fees are appropriate for what we need. Let's see. The Mount Lebanon Co-op update the grant was signed, and Ashley has been talking to Andrew a ton about that, right? And
And then on Thursday, him and I had a meeting, just to get some of the paperwork finalized and, we have acquired Active Fund. So things are moving in the right direction.
yeah, awesome, that's great. Good. And from what I've heard, Andrew's been very helpful and very responsive, so that's always good. And then 25 budget process, we're working on a calendar to make sure we have everything in a calendar, so we stay on track and there's not a fire drill at the end of the year. Nobody wants that. And lastly, just the possibility of doing an RFP for a different bank. As of late, PNC has not been talking as well with us, and they're not communicating. So, and that's a big problem. If you call somebody for help, they should be there to answer,
Right.
So I think we're just doing an RFP. Did you have to, Gavin?
So I did reach out to Gavin in regards to if we did have to do a RFP, or if it could just be, kind of admin reaching out to local branches and seeing what was appropriate, like just seeing if we could communicate with them that way. And Gavin said that process is appropriate. So
Great.
I've been emailing local branches, seeing if we could have them come in,
Good presentation.
communicating and seeing what they had to offer for us. We've heard back from maybe 4 so far.
Okay, good.
And we've set up, upcoming dates, with them, so I can include the finance committee on that. If I include it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And
In regards to this item that's on the agenda,
Mhm.
this is something, I forget how often it's come up, I believe it's every 5 years, right, Gavin? Yeah, we did this about 5 years ago. The COG handled it for us this last time as well. Hogan Law Group handled it at that time as well, but this is just the Verizon franchise renewal agreement. So we get sort of lack of better words, a stipend from amount of individuals that have the Verizon. And then we get a amount allocated to the borough from that. So.
So what are the next steps for that?
Just for council to say that they're in agreement to go ahead with the COG. To use Cohen Law Group to do the Verizon franchise renewal.
Yeah, I think there's probably an engagement letter, Michelle, that was part of the packet that
Yes.
they provided, so we could have on the agenda for the next meeting to approve the engagement of going off by the borough, even though it's collectively sort of offered to the COG members, it would still be the borough engaging co-law specifically to represent the borough just on this one issue. And they're sort of the pros, they handle all the franchise renewals and half of the borough and all the COG members for a long time. And the more COG members that use Cohen, the bigger discount we get as a borough. So hopefully the rest of the COG members will follow suit.
Yeah, and from the ones that are, have done it in the past, seemed like everyone was pretty on board with it again this year, so I don't see any issues.
thank you.
In the engagement letter that Cohen sent outlining, going over the franchise fee, the process, this would report There was a sliding fee scale, and so you were saying that most municipalities who are part of the COG are going to be signing on again to engage common law.
It seemed like it was leading that way.
Okay. Because that will then dictate how much we have to contribute for their services, depending on the number of municipalities that are in. And then also in the engagement letter, it was outlining, identifying a specific person from the municipality to represent each of the municipalities that will be participating in this negotiation of the Verizon franchise fee. So have you decided who is going to be representing the borough and speaking on behalf of what we would like to see in the negotiation on that?
The president and I haven't had that discussion yet. I know we have the COG representative. So I don't know if that's something we can discuss
Yeah,
to
we
see if that's, it would be that individual or if it can be someone else, but.
Who was it in the past?
I mean, historically, you end up with almost the same agreement.
Yeah.
Negotiated by all the COG communities, so there's not a whole lot of borough-specific input. The only thing that I believe that's come up a time or two has been related to a public access type channel. That the borough, I think that might have been a Comcast franchise renewal that was included there. As far as Verizon, I'm not sure there's gonna be a lot of Churchill individual. The services they provide, and I'll probably miss I'll be a bad job describing it. Sounds like Brooke, you read it very carefully, but I know they're gonna do an audit to make sure, number one, that the borough's actually been receiving the fees that it's supposed to have been receiving, and that's key because that oftentimes will help pay for the co-law services right off the get-go. But ultimately, the end product, essentially, from my experience, is the same, everyone's getting the same agreement, the same rates in the COG, and essentially you just kind of swap it out names. It's just more effective to have everyone sort of negotiating together. Number one, it's like I said, it's basically the same agreement, so there's no point in having everyone engage their own lawyers to do the same review, the same revisions. But also you sort of have I guess arguably some additional bargaining power, because you have the entire COG at your side. But these guys have been pros, and there are many issues in the past, but that's a long way of me not answering the question as to who the representative was. I think it was the manager historically, but there's no requirement that that's there.
The reason why I was bringing that up is because from my perspective, there are three areas that were important. The legal protections of the rights of way, requirements for repair and restoration, to ensure that you understand exactly what the terms are from the past agreement and what we're requiring moving forward. I know that there was an incident on Margate in Greensburg Pike where a Verizon manhole had split, and it had taken some time for it to be repaired. And there's another manhole that is a Verizon manhole that is like on a loom, and no one from Verizon has been able to be engaged and having repaired the contract. So I think if we're going to be going into these negotiations, we need to be, bringing our concerns to the forefront. Even though typically it is more or less the call, or it wouldn't be an individual contract for us. But I think it's important to bring that to the forefront. So once we identify who the representative is going to be, we should have a more in-depth conversation about what we would like to see in the agreement, and allow the attorney to be what they did to see how much we can do.
Like outside of the discussion, because we can make a space here and we can talk.
And also to, the PED channel, which I believe is like the public education.
And then Railroad has that, town has that,
If we can, I know there's been some issues with streaming or meetings, whether it be the workshop meeting or the business meeting, but if we could potentially take advantage of using that. And the Facebook channel, community channel, events in the community, as well as streaming what we have going on in the borough.
I can talk to you about that, in a later time too. Because some of the information about that.
Thanks, Brooke. Anything else on finance? No. Okay. Public safety.
Yes, unfortunately, we had to cancel our meeting this last month, but we will be meeting in April, the day after our meeting next week. After the main council meeting. Mentioned earlier, Scott's property safety specialist report, which is a really important big thing that is happening, and for our meeting next week, there's a discussion about approval of a Churchill Borough Emergency Operations Plan and Resolution, which is in our packet. That's something that's required by the code. So you can read that in the packet. And we're looking forward to having our initial discussions about with the bargaining unit and the police department.
Yep.
And we're trying to see to it that that's all locked down before the finance committee starts to meet to put the budget together. So I'll keep all of us posted about that.
I don't know if you want Scott to touch base on that at all. He is on Zoom. He can elaborate a little bit. Scott, do you have anything to add about the EOP?
I mean, yeah, it's something we have to update every 2 years. It has been updated since 2018, actually, so that's why I'm acting on this right now. The only thing I changed since 2018 is our backup emergency operations center location has been moved to the Edgewood Country Club. I talked with our deputy EMC, Scott Henderson. He actually works at the club, and he talked with them and was able to get them to be okay with that being the secondary location in case we had to evacuate the borough building, which is the original location for the EOC. And then I updated some phone numbers, but as far as the plan itself, it's the same as 2018, just with those updates.
Thanks, Scott. All right, infrastructure.
Oh, that's me too.
Back to back, Diane.
It discussed the possible termination of sanitary sewer right of way on the Allegheny Land Trust property. That's kind of complicated, okay? That's from an agreement that happened many years ago with the people who ran the country club. So this is kind of a technical disconnect for us. It's not going to impact our sewer line going across the back of Allegheny Land Trust property from the Collins Road, former Collins Road pump station. So it shouldn't have any impact on anything that matters to us. It's a matter of basic housekeeping.
I will say there's a little bit of a wrinkle there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no.
Nothing major, but Dennis and I have been talking about this because we received the sort of incomplete information about this. And so I had asked Dennis to have his folks take a look at the legal description from the recorded instrument they sent us over, just to, we're just double checking to make sure that all was well. And I think I'll allow Dennis to elaborate, but I believe that the area that was shown to, I think, Alex and Dennis back in the day, which was last September, I think, is that?
Maybe, I think even earlier than that, when we first had the conversation.
Yeah, with the land trust representatives, the sort of sub-consultant or whoever that entity is, and then they said, oh, yeah, sure, they showed a big picture, like, hey, this is what we're asking to terminate. Turns out that picture is not exactly where they were asking us to terminate the easement, or it's not exactly match up with the recorded instrument. So, Dennis, you want to elaborate at all on that?
Yeah, they had just, the property or the position of the easement that they wanted to have eliminated was actually coming off of Saybrook. They believed it to be a sanitary sewer easement there, but we had no sanitary sewer line in the area. Stormwater at outfall there. The deed book information that was provided to us that had the information for that easement that Kevin was speaking to, when we were able to draw that onto a plan that actually runs along Beulah Road on the west side of Beulah Road, right along Beulah Road. So, I mean, again, we're not utilizing it. We don't have a sanitary sewer there, but I don't think that that's gonna solve the problem that they're looking to solve either.
How far up does that come on Beulah Road? Does it come to the BCA property?
Stops just short of it,
Okay. Okay,
but it runs along that.
it's on the
Beulah-
west side of Beulah Road.
West side of Beulah Road, it runs pretty much, and this is specifically to the Churchill Borough property, so it's, from the property line along Beulah Road. And it stops about 100 feet
I was
short
gonna
of
say,
the
very,
property line.
very short period. Yeah, we were talking about handicap access path to the bridge over to the land trust property. So what impact, if any, would that have if we construct an accessible pathway from the Blackbridge driveway down to that bridge? We have any
The-
restriction on that?
Well, the sewer easement wouldn't necessarily
Alright.
help you there. It may be something that would restrict building over
That's
that,
what I'm
but
saying.
essentially the easement is in the borough's name.
Yeah.
that Sewer easement there.
Yeah. In other words, could
Ultimately,
we
you,
put
you
it-
would also wanna look at the right of way that you have with Beulah Road.
Yeah.
Considering a sidewalk, that would be. your
Basically do
consideration.
the same thing, okay.
Right,
All right.
and, I mean, Gavin, maybe you can correct me if I'm
Excuse
I would
me.
think you would need a separate easement if you wanted to take easement for a sidewalk.
Within
In
the right of way?
addition, within the sanitary sewer.
Sewer.
Yeah,
Sanitary,
we're the grantee of the sewer easement anyway. So,
Right.
you know,
We'd be okay.
We'd be all right, but I
Okay.
think the bigger question I would have, and I'd suggest is our next course of action to put Dennis to try to get in touch with his counterpart at the land trust.
Yeah.
Those folks and say, hey, we just did a little digging, we were just kind of making sure
Yeah.
every I was dotted here, and this, sort of, we flagged this issue, we take a look at this and let us know
Okay.
your thoughts. Because again, we want to be cooperative with the land trust.
Sure,
We're not really concerned about maintaining sanitary sewer easements in areas where there's no
right,
development, there's not going to be future development. We also don't want to be terminating things that
sure.
they're asking for one thing, but they don't really even know what they're asking for. So
Well, that's,
we just need to have some clarity. I don't know that we'll have that clarity between now and next Monday, so this one might get back
Okay.
until May.
but we can talk about it following the council meeting next week if you want to at the infrastructure committee meeting just 2 days later.
We'll continue to keep everyone updated.
A week later. Yeah, okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
just to clarify, hold off for the regular meeting.
Well, I mean, it's possible, I guess, that it could be resolved by then, but the way that these things generally work, and it's been about a year since this conversation started. Sort of a major, kind of curveball that's been thrown. I suspect it's gonna be May, but I'll certainly, if that miracle occurs, I'll be in touch with you well in advance.
Right.
6 days.
Yeah.
No, not gonna happen. Okay,
Out of curiosity, if we were not to terminate the sanitary sewer easement, what would that prevent? Being that it's, we are the grantor.
And grantee.
Grantee. And so if we provide them with authority to authorization to build or, do something in that particular law that where the easement runs, what is that preventing if we don't terminate?
They would just not they would not be willing to construct a structure over that easement, knowing that at any time us or whoever we would assign that easement to would be able to say, you gotta remove that, we have sanitary sewer easement. But it's just interesting to me, like, I'm not sure why this is really a big issue in like this vast field of acres of nothingness. Especially since it's not the area where it was identified, so. And it was the last conversation, actually the first and only conversation I had with the lawyer for the property owner. They were very interested in getting this done like very quickly, like all of a sudden it was like 0 to 100. So I just feel like, and I also don't, the entity that we're dealing with is not the Allegheny Land Trust. It is, like I said, this consultant that I think has been engaged by them. And the lawyer that I was talking to is in like Massachusetts or something. So I don't know what exactly the full story is, but again, we just want to be careful not to accidentally terminate something. There's sort of two components. Number one, I don't want to accidentally terminate something that we actually need to use.
Yeah.
And secondly, because the borough does discharge stormwater, And the instrument that they sent to us references an agreement that no one can seem to locate that talks about authorizing us to discharge stormwater too. I don't want to terminate something and then have us lose the ability to discharge. stormwater. We just want to be real careful, before we.
Once again, thank you for catching things.
Yeah, no problem, no.
Good job.
Okay. The only other thing I have under infrastructure is we're having our annual briefing at Gateway.
Yeah.
On Wednesday, and looking forward to that. I have
Excited.
attended those for a number of years now, and they're very worthwhile, believe me, so I hope you can get there.
Looking forward to it.
I'm sorry, I cannot.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed something.
Yeah, the tenant thing.
I missed something, yeah.
Okay.
It's the possible adoption of resolution number 4599, establishing a tenant registration permit application fee. This is on the heels of action that we took in 2023. Wanna cover that?
Yeah, I mean, it was either 23, maybe even 22, when we established the occupancy regulations. This,
They run together.
for reasons I'm not still 100% clear on, we sort of lumped in our rental registration regulations with all the rest of our occupancy. I mean, it makes some sense, but the chapter is called rental. So these provisions related to tenant registration, which require anyone who owns rental property in the borough to contact the borough, register the property, and then when tenants move in and out, you have to register those tenants with the borough. And we really haven't been, I think, aggressively enforcing these regulations to this point. So we want to make sure we set fees so that, the administrative cost to cover processing the applications is taken care of. And then we're going to start, I think, Michelle, you correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of rolling out a more aggressive enforcement policy to make sure folks are doing what they need to do.
I have a question about that, sorry. Is that, the landlords that have to handle or the person that is renting?
The
landlord.
The landlord.
Property
owner.
Scott has worked on this and done some research with
Great.
local surrounding municipalities and also similar municipalities and population, but we found that a fee appropriate would be $45. It'd be a yearly fee that they would have to apply. So if a tenant was saying they were only gonna come in for like 5 months and leaving, it wouldn't have to be a fee associated with that. It would just be one yearly fee and then just up every year. Scott, I don't know if you wanna talk about some of the information that you found while you were see what appropriate tenant registration permit.
Yeah, I just looked at a couple of forms that I found from neighboring boroughs and municipalities, and it's just a form that just gives all the property owner information, their contact information, and then tenant information, and then all list of names that are currently living at that specific property. It's just a simple form that the landlord will fill out, turn it in, pay the fee, and that's it.
Great.
Yeah, and this was implemented in October. Not the specific resolution, but this concept was in October of 2022. But now that we have Scott here, we finally have the capabilities of actually starting this process, and he can see it through with this system. So I'm excited that we can finally get this all rolling.
Great.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, that's it.
Does the full tenant registration require a fee? Is that separate from an occupancy inspection fee or yes? Okay. And are we also requiring for the leasing? Isn't that correct, Gavin? The landlord would be considered the leasing?
No.
Leaser?
Yeah.
But are we requiring the property owner to register occupants who are under 18? Or are we just requiring them to register?
It's
Everybody lives in the home.
It's all occupant. Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, moving on to communication committee.
Well, first and foremost, check your mailboxes. I believe the newsletter came out today. If not, you'll probably get it tomorrow. There's a plethora of information there, including, I'll throw this out now, a full page about our dinner, May 19th, which is celebrating our 90th anniversary. But it is still the church annual dinner. It's at the Nunzio's. It gives you all the information. You can just call our office to sign up, pay for it. It's a very reasonable price for a really lovely buffet that the rec board worked really hard to find a nice place that's reasonable with a very big, nice spacious room. I think it's going to be a very nice Churchill dinner and a nice celebration. So May 19th, you'll see it in your newsletter, but mark your calendars down now. Also another date, June 7th, we're also maybe some people who can't make the dinner, but we still want to celebrate our 90th anniversary. We're going to have a little cake and ice cream in the Yagle room. That day, it's a Friday, because our actual official
Birthday.
is it birthday or anniversary? I don't know.
Anniversary.
We call it whatever, is June 7th. So, I'm sorry, June 8th. So we're celebrating it on a Friday, 3 to 7 in the Yagle room. That's, another thing I will be talking about every single month until it happens. But I'm giving everybody warning now. And then, of course, another important date for Churchill is our annual community day, Saturday, August 10th, same place as last year on the grounds of Pay School. So I think that's about it. Oh, that's 11 to 4, and the recreation board is in the middle of putting it together. And
We're going bigger this year, right?
well, we're trying to be as big as possible within the constraints of what we have,
Yeah.
right? Yes, yes, we are not having balloons this year because it's so windy up there. They all
Blue.
flew. It was
Yeah.
ridiculous. So I know.
It's all right.
I went to Party City and had all these balloons, stuffed them in my, car and everything, and I had a couple people helping me, but the wind is that's why we can't have a bouncy house, because there's so many great
Yeah.
kiddie games there.
Yeah.
And I really wanted a bouncy house, but you can't put a bouncy house up there, so
Well, the kids will start flying.
right.
Chris.
Right, and safety, of course, is always paramount, no
Yeah.
matter what we do. And one other thing, I don't know if this falls under communication, but thank you to everybody who came out for the Easter Bunny Parade on Saturday. Our mayor, as always, was kind enough to decorate his car. The Easter Bunny was very impressed by how you decorated the car this
Yeah.
year. It was almost a 4-hour. One thing we are gonna change, we always end up, they always end up running a bit late.
The rain, it was the rain.
Well, it did rain on and off a little bit, but I mean, all the kids came out. Apparently, the Easter Bunny told me there were about 85 children, and
Wow.
yeah, that's terrific. That's
That's
terrific.
amazing.
There were also many residents who just came out to wave and say hi, thank you, and I don't know if you want to elaborate on that. Ashley will be posting pictures in a couple of days. Hi, Ashley. Of the whole parade.
I can't find the exact date, I tried, but this bunny visit has been going on for probably 40 years or more.
Yeah.
And some of the people I talked to said they remember when they were kids. And now
Having the
their
bunny
children,
parade.
and they're doing
Yeah.
the same thing, so.
And even grandchildren. Diane's grandchildren were in from California, and they were
Yeah.
just very excited to see
They
the
were
Easter
so
bunny.
excited.
Yeah,
The mayor and the Easter
me,
Bunny
that's big
at their
feelings.
grandma's
Yeah,
drive.
yeah.
Come on.
Wow,
You got clout.
you must know people, huh?
Well, I've known a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, my son was pumped.
Was he?
My daughter, questionable.
She started crying.
She did.
She got scared. It is sometimes for some small children, it does get a little scary, but we
He
met,
loves it.
our mayor always manages to take great,
Yeah.
pictures.
Pictures.
You
Right,
can send the pictures out there. like said.
Yes, I did.
Get a chance
I
to-
myself got one,
Yeah.
yes.
and then Ashley's going to crop
Awesome.
them and post them and do all that, so look for that, look for the pictures on our website, and I don't know, Ashley, what else, Facebook?
Social media.
All social media, yeah,
Facebook and Instagram. Yeah. Mhm.
Good,
Awesome.
good, yeah, so it was a nice day,
Despite the rain.
yes.
Great,
Yeah, well, it could have been worse.
yeah.
It could have been downpouring.
Yes.
It wasn't,
Straight up,
or
yeah.
freezing. and
Right,
It was,
there have been years where it's.
yeah,
freezing.
freezing.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. So
Awesome.
I think that's all I have.
Thank
for
you, Rec
community
Board.
questions. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and a shout out. All these things that I've mentioned, a shout out to the rec board
Yeah.
too, because they work very tirelessly, as you know, because you're at the rec board meeting. I'm part of the rec board, but it's a group of people and they really work so hard, especially with community day to.
Yeah.
Everybody has a certain job to do because there's so many elements. So, I mean, thank you.
A lot of moving pieces.
Joe was able to pass on, so.
Oh, right, Joe,
flyers,
president of our rec board.
Yes.
Passed out in,
That's right.
information. Because it's hard for the bunny to be talking to the kids and giving them candy, and our mayor's taking pictures. And we need like an extra, or they need an
Yeah.
extra person to pass out information. And it's a good way to engage with our residents, so
Absolutely.
that they have, we had a one-sheeter about the,
Dinner
there were
and the
two
other was-
sheets. One listed all the things coming up, and then one was just about the dinner.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Since the dinner is soon, and we want, it's open to residents and friends and family. You don't have to live in Churchill, but, we want to get to our residents first before, people outside, which we're happy to have them, but, I want to give them that opportunity before it starts to fill up, and then, a week before, oh, I want to go, and then it's sold out.
What is the max capacity that we're able to have?
At the dinner,
Yeah,
I think around 90.
90. Do you know what we're at right now?
Well, it just came out,
Yeah.
maybe 5. No,
But that's something that we
it
can,
will start really snowballing now that the
Yeah.
newsletter's out, because it's a full page in the newsletter.
and that's something that we can communicate with people here during the meeting as well as social media. Once we start getting close to that number, we can say, hey,
Right.
we hit this number. If
Right.
you're interested, make sure you get your tickets, so you don't
Mhm.
miss out on it.
Right. So,
And let's not forget Officer Klein,
I was
who
just
thankfully
Oh, yes.
got us through all the streets
yes,
in the borough,
yes,
with the
Thank
lights
you.
and the sirens where needed.
Yeah.
We
right.
we get to the intersections, so we want to give. a
Yes.
shout out to-
Shout out to
Officer
him.
Klein as
Yes,
well.
thank you very much. I'm
He
glad
came
you
in on
said
his
that.
day off.
Oh.
Oh.
It's
Right.
still, it's the,
No, but
Okay.
we appreciate our officer.
It's actually
Gotcha.
important to him because, he's gonna be retired.
Right.
He wanted to.
Right.
And he's done it in the past.
No,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
exactly.
what he said.
Mhm.
And he's just such a nice guy, and
That's it.
yeah, I want to thank him as well, because that was really nice. Yeah. I know the bunny really appreciated it. Okay, that's all I know.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Climate action.
See you again. I don't have really too much. We're wrapping up our 5-year plan with our intern. She's gonna be on our next Zoom, our next climate action committee Zoom, to give us all the details, and she's done a tremendous amount of research and, just good information for our residents, which I've spoken about many times. Also, a note, April 26th is Arbor Day. So in keeping with that, on April 27th, which is a Saturday, Woodland Hills High School students, along with the tree committee, they're gonna do a big tree planting
Great.
at the Allegheny landmark. And we're still looking for volunteers. Ken Balky, who is the chair of our tree committee, you can contact Ken. He is still waiting to get more details about, the link, to send the link out for registration, but we truly are looking for volunteers for that. Ken, do I have Ken's email? I think I do somewhere.
It's from 9 to noon or something.
Yes, it's gonna be from 9 to noon. Trying to find, I'm trying to find Ken's. It's, okay, here we go. It is Ken, KRB, B as in boy, at AOL.com.
Ken, KRB.
Ken, KENKR,
B as in boy.
as in robot, B as in Bravo, at AOL.com. So, you can contact Ken if you want to be a volunteer. Again, we could really use it. 9 to noon. We're going to help those students from Woodland Hills plant trees, and I think it'll be a wonderful day. And hope the weather will cooperate.
Well,
Maybe a little bit more than the bunny parade, but you just never know. But yeah, that's about all I have for climate action right now.
Great. Thank you. Ad hoc deer.
Yes. The answer is yes. Yes. We have, created a committee. And, the committee will consist of me as chair, and Deb has, volunteered to serve as well, as
Thank you.
has the mayor. And, we have some very special people who have stepped forward here. It's just wonderful. Dr. Barry Kissel, who was one of the founding members of the tree committee. Barry has in fact prepared a draft, which is a starting off point for the
Very good
committee,
one.
and that's in our packet.
Mhm.
I think, Michelle, that's under the extra, what's the term you're using? The
Additional.
extra, yeah. So you can look at it there, but it kind of gets us started on the 3 areas that the committee is going to be looking at. And that is, the question of car-deer interactions, where we are on that. It is the tick issue, and it is the impact on people's properties. So those are the 3 areas that the committee is going to be dealing with. And the goal is for us to come up with, absolute best practices in all 3 of those areas, and to determine in our borough which processes, which approaches are appropriate and effective here. So the other 2 members of the committee are Dr. Rory Carroll, who is a PhD in Earth and Environmental Science, who's on the faculty at the University of Pittsburgh. He designs and teaches courses in wildlife management, and is a real expert in this subject.
Seems very appropriate.
Yes, yes, he is. Greg, I'm particular about this one. So Greg Prodonovich is the president of the Ridgewood Manor Association. From the beginning of my experience on the borough council, they're over there on the other side of Rhode Eye Road, and they need a voice. He is the president of their Ridgewood Manor organization, and he also has 5 years of experience in public park management. So he knows a great
He
deal
knows a
about
lot.
the issue. Yes, he knows a
And that
lot
is
about
what we, we need people
Exactly.
who have certain expertise
Yes.
that can really help us with research
Yeah.
and putting this together.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were a lot of other people or some that were
Yeah.
interested, but we really needed people with good backgrounds
Yeah.
related to what we're
Yeah.
trying to
And
attempt.
thank heaven we got them.
I know.
So we're having our first meeting tomorrow night at 7 o'clock.
That's great.
And, it's a matter of doing research and coming up with the information that we need that's reliable.
Mhm.
So,
That's awesome. I'm very excited.
there we
Thank
go. I
you.
am too.
Thank you for this.
Yeah.
That's great. Education and school.
No updates on this meeting. Keep it posted.
Great. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I'm fine. One thing I wanted to talk about, and you might have got this from the chief the other day. Last week, we met up on Greensburg Pike and discussed where the speed sign was gonna go. And the chief pointed out that, Forest Hills has put a speed sign a little further down the pike by the, funeral home.
Okay.
And ours was gonna be a little up for like, kind of across from Churchill Mansions.
Mhm.
And so the chief was suggesting that maybe instead of catching them going both in the same direction, that we switch it and go to the other side of the street
Oh,
to catch
that's
the
a
traffic.
great idea.
Going both ways.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
So I think that's something we should consider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know gentleman's gonna have to come out again and look at the site and put us behind it a little bit more, but they can work on Beulah while and see how long.
Well, I was gonna ask you, what's the latest with Beulah? That great sign was there for 10 days and then it broke, and I know now there's,
Well, I think when we met, the guy put the stake in the ground on Beulah, that's where the sign's gonna go. He had to go back to his office and figure out some permitting and how this thing is gonna get, they have to pour a cement foundation
okay.
in order to attach this pole with the speed sign on it. So he really did not have a timeline.
Well,
to
it's
say
been about
when
4
it would
months
be
now.
up, but
It's been
6 months?
We got the speed signs over 9 or 10 months ago,
Mhm.
but there was a big delay by PennDOT in
Of
getting the
course.
permits, and I think that took
Mhm.
4 months or so. And then we had met up there last year to spec out where we wanted to put the sign. Unfortunately, I guess in the same way Forest Hills didn't know we planned on putting a sign up there, we didn't know they did either. And,
Okay,
I just happened to be on patrol on Friday and I was like, it came down towards the home, there was a flashing speed sign.
and you're like, what?
Yeah. Right. So, and it looks permanent, so it's not like a temporary movable one, so
Mm-hmm.
if we can move ours across the street without
Yeah.
too much, trouble, that's probably.
When I rode by the Fourth Bridge one last night too, it didn't look like it was working properly. It's kinda
Maybe
like-
you're going too fast.
You're going so fast that I can't get your number.
Good one, chief.
It is a computer number.
Just saw a street go by.
People just have no idea how difficult this stuff
Well,
is.
I know,
It's
because I
impossible
did ask
to
that question,
believe
and
it is
you're working with PennDOT, and
Yep.
I know we had that sign for 10 days, and now it's
Yep.
been gone, like you said, almost 6 months, and we call and we push, but, I just wondered if anybody else had any new information, but
Yeah.
we can only do so much.
Mhm.
And just one other thing, just so, I told this resident I would talk to, council about it. Resident over on Beulah Road, they put up a detour sign in the front yard.
Mm.
And she was
Yes.
concerned that when she's backing out of her driveway, it was gonna interfere with her view of
Yeah.
traffic coming up and down the
Okay.
road.
I can understand that,
Yeah,
I've just heard that.
especially on a busy
So,
road.
yeah. So I did actually pulled into her driveway to see how bad it
Yeah.
was. Wasn't terribly bad, because the sign, it's not a solid thing. Up here it is, but there's slats.
Mhm.
You can still see the traffic coming up.
Mhm.
Now, today when I rode by, I was coming over here, that sign was removed from her yard. And it's now up in the common garden area by the stop sign coming out of Old Beulah.
Right
You
by
know, when you
my
come out-
house,
yeah, you come out there, It's more in the common garden area.
but not
not-
in the garden.
And it was more, the sign was near Norma Greco's house. It was Kate.
Yeah.
Kate Hill was the
Okay,
one. that-
yeah. But I can understand her concern, because she's pulling out in a very busy road.
Absolutely.
And even if you can kind of go like this, that's.
So you're not getting 100% of the view.
No, I think that's unsafe.
And I think that's something else
Mhm.
with Scott can help us later on. Some areas in the borough where there are shrubbery
Yeah.
that are
Yes.
hanging out.
Yes.
You know, I can tell you right now, the bottom of Thornbury Drive, that
Mhm.
house on the corner, that
Mhm.
shrubbery is out.
Yep.
You've gotta kind of try to peek to see
Right,
who's coming up at 90 miles an hour.
mm-hmm,
But we need to send them a little message, so
right.
trim those bushes down a little bit.
Or sometimes how people park their cars. I will tell you, not too long ago, I'm coming from Beulah Road. I mean, from Coons, let's say, to Beulah Road, and my road is Old Beulah, which runs parallel. And as you turn the corner, somebody puts their,
Park- oh, yeah,
parks their
park
car
it.
right there. And if you just turned for a second, you would hit that car. Can't do that. I put a Post-it, do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I put a
know.
Post-it note on his window.
Yeah, he lives a couple doors down and he kind of works on cars and it's spare time, I guess. so
Okay,
Sometimes put customer cars there and I've talked to him before.
Really?
that's dangerous.
Yeah,
That's
too close to the
dangerous.
intersection.
Especially if you don't know the road and let's say you're turning the first time, I know to be careful because I've seen it before. But if you,
Somebody's gonna hit that car.
somebody's gonna hit that car and damage their car, but I did put a friendly note saying, your car's in a dangerous spot, you really should think about. I haven't seen it since, so maybe that helped.
Yeah, I'll
out.
keep an eye and see if he puts.
Yeah.
cars there. He hasn't in a while, but.
Okay. It's just dangerous, it can be very dangerous, yeah.
Well, speaking of zoning, I don't believe that kind of a business is permissible in that zone.
I don't know what we're talking about, or,
Somebody who's working on cars as a business in their private property.
but I don't know what zoning district this is. We have to look into it.
Okay, yeah,
It's in a residential. Well,
no, I understand.
public
Yeah.
declaration.
Yeah, you have to just watch that stuff there because it just starts to creep.
Okay.
Vice President, there was a question. Residents are able to attend the meeting tomorrow for the.
We had not planned on having an open meeting. We can discuss that if you'd
Okay.
like, but there's only two council members on that committee. And,
So this is a close with our committee.
yeah,
Initially.
At this
Initially.
time.
Yeah.
Initially,
well,
but then we're gonna
part of
have,
the committee, part of the committee's responsibility is going to be to conduct public meetings to get both input and interaction.
Mhm.
The initial work of the committee, however, is very focused and research oriented, and I don't think that it's productive.
And it's just the first meeting now.
Yeah,
so-
right.
We need to organize ourselves, see
Well,
what
I mean-
everybody's bringing to the table.
Yeah,
And,
have planning meetings.
Yeah.
yeah,
right,
yeah.
As, during your interviewing process or vetting process,
Mhm.
to identify those who are going to be participating in this committee. Was there any conversation about where they stand as far as understanding that you're going to do research,
Mhm.
obviously to present your
Mhm.
case more strongly? But is there, multiple ideas about ways to address fear? Are there different perspectives represented among your committee members?
I'll try to answer that. The people that we're involving in this are designed to be objective. You know, the selection is designed to be an objective attitude going into this. We're gonna base our recommendations on the facts as
right, it wasn't
explored.
so much, oh, I wanna
By the
call the
committee.
deer, or I never wanna touch the deer, it's more.
It's like, well, what was the initial motivation for wanting to participate?
Oh, the
Yeah.
recognition that there's a problem, absolutely.
Right.
Is an issue,
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
What would you like to, you know, kind of see? Okay, understanding that that is speculative at this point,
mhm,
because as you all research, maybe, you know, the committee will lean more towards one end versus the other.
sure.
Are there any ideas of what people, their motivation for wanting to join the committee and kind of where they are at this point before the research begins, and what they would kind of like to see?
Well, I think several things. I think we've agreed on looking for best practices. That's the first thing. So if you come into a committee like that and you're saying, I want to see this, I want to see that, that doesn't go along with researching best practices. Second of all, you know, this is a committee that understands three things, which is the ones that I said. What the three concerns are. The committee has to address each of those concerns. Now, we have a draft from Dr. Kissel where he has particular ideas about those things, but those are not in stone either, and he would tell you that.
It could be
So
really anything.
our whole thing here is to come up with recommendations, practical recommendations for our citizens about how they can address these things and what is true here and what is not true here. A classic example is a lot of the research that you do is done in places that are not the same as Churchill, are not as applicable. If you have municipalities on the edge of a state forest, that's a different matter than having a municipality that is surrounded with other densely populated municipalities. So it's a very different thing. So that's an example.
I wonder if there are multiple perspectives represented.
Yes, oh,
Or
absolutely,
community kind of wants to understand,
yes,
Sure.
yes,
not just the philosophy.
because there's no clear-cut answer,
Right.
you know, and we need to, but we need people who are just interested,
Yeah.
but aren't totally this way, and I'm not gonna listen to anything else, or totally this way, you know, so.
That's
I think-
exactly what I wanted to stay away from.
Yeah, no, we don't
Because
want
that's
that.
been the case in the past.
Right.
Factions. They're
Right.
interested in factions.
Mhm.
Interested in people who know how to do research and
Mhm.
who will be as objective as they can possibly be. That's the deal.
Okay,
All right.
okay,
I'm done, right?
she's done.
So I have one more thing before we wrap up.
Oh,
Not sure
I have
what
two
committee
things
this
too.
may fall under, but I don't know if anyone around the table has heard about the Eastern Pittsburgh Multimodal Corridor Project. The Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission, along with some of our congressmen, women, were able to secure federal funding to do some updates, specifically in this eastern area. And PRT is going to be designing possibly access for buses to use the parkways corridor. And so I think it's important for us to present a need for sound barriers along the parkway. Because we already have a number of residential areas and pockets that are living parallel to the parkway that are constantly impacted by traffic, noise, traffic accidents, and so I think it would be a great opportunity to present a need for, if you're going to be widening the parkway or doing something that is going to create space for buses to utilize the parkway. At the same time that we're increasing service, let's also address the movements. So I've reached out to Congressman Chris Deluzio, I've reached out to Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission. I'm also going to be following up with PennDOT. I've already had a conversation with PRT. And so I'm presenting this to the council because I would like for us to be engaged in those conversations. If you choose not to be engaged, that's just something that I am comfortable with advocating for. They eventually will do an environmental study to determine the noise that's generated from the Parkway East and to see what practices need to be implemented to reduce that noise. But I think it's important that we advocate and bring our voice to the table. Outside of the infrastructure side of what's happening with the multimodal project, PRT is having a bus line redesign community engagement opportunity. So members of our community who utilize the bus service or want to voice their interest in bus access and where, bus access is needed. I believe the meeting is going to be April 16th. It will be a virtual meeting. There is some information that I can pass along to Michelle. If you don't have it already, we can post it on the website for residents who want to do this.
I have a question, Brooke. When you're having these conversations with official leaders,
Absolutely.
are you looping Michelle in on these conversations? Because I think it's important that she's in the loop of what's happening.
No, I have not looped Michelle.
Okay, I think that would be really helpful.
in that.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful for her, so she can pass on the information if need be to somebody else.
And I can also
Yeah.
present it here as well and share from.
Yeah.
So-
I just think as a manager, she needs to be in the loop of everything that's going on, and if any of us are talking to any representatives, I think it's important that she be in the loop of what's
Sure.
happening.
And so when the conversation is fruitful, I definitely had mentioned or had planned on mentioning it to Michelle at this particular point. It's just a initial conversation to see what direction or who the point people are to really present the need
Okay.
to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. absolutely.
Quick question, and did you talk directly with Chris or with Chris staff? Just,
I talked with Chris's staff. Chris Deluzio was not extremely accessible. So, we'll talk more about that.
okay, and then the second thing I think for council as a whole, and I'll just leave this on the table, I'm not gonna make a big deal out of it. But are you speaking as Brooke or as Brooke member of council? And if you're speaking with Brooke member of council, have you run it through the M&G? Because I certainly.
Speaking as Brooke, a homeowner in Churchill
Cool.
who has a property that boards 376. I'm also speaking as a councilwoman in Churchill that's been elected by members of this community to advocate for things that are needed for this area. So I'm speaking as such.
So. Nothing for
Concerned
nothing.
about that?
Yeah, I mean, nothing for nothing. I thought we kind of we try to kind of talk about it before we go jumping off to council or to other elected officials, but you certainly have that right. I just,
Yeah, no, and I to council at this particular point, because it's very much in the infancy stage of the conversation. So that if
Gotcha.
you're interested, if you have support, if there's something that you feel that would be fruitful to help move the conversation forward, you can get on board.
yeah,
So
I mean,
that's where
I
we're at,
can,
because I know that there have been, I've talked with a number of residents who live along 376, whether it's Walton Drive.
It's loud.
Word, and
Oh, yeah, no.
It's loud.
Churchill Road,
I'm,
that have
Churchill
said
Road.
consistently,
Churchill
at
Road.
all hours of the
Yeah.
night.
Right.
They're impacted by
I
noise
agree.
along 376. And so, again, we know that sometimes things, are brought to the table and maybe they're not, the ball sometimes is dropped. And so I just took the ball and initially running with it, and I'm presenting an invitation for members of council who would like to participate. I can share the emails that I've sent. So that way, if there's something you would like to contribute, you can do that.
I think the most
I
important
was
thing
just
for
wondering if you wanted me
me,
to text Chris or not.
yeah, I think the most important thing, he said he could text Chris. And I think the most important thing is for Michelle to be in the loop, and Michelle knows a lot of people and has a lot of connections working
Well,
with the county and things,
But
so I
you
think
got it.
that could be like a very important asset too.
absolutely, I'm not, turning away any.
Yeah.
avenue.
Yeah.
table, so that way all of us can, whatever
Absolutely.
context we have.
Yeah.
Conversation.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else? Yeah,
I have two.
please.
This is very important and it's a safety issue. Next Monday, you probably all know, is the solar eclipse. Okay, and from
2
what
o'clock?
it's,
Gee.
yeah, but it starts earlier than that. It starts earlier than
Right.
that. From what I saw,
Totality.
from what I saw in a WTAE story tonight, it's 97% visible. So it's a big deal here, but you can't look at the eclipse without special glasses.
Yep.
And there's a lot of scammers out there right now selling these glasses that are not, they have not been vetted. And according to this story I saw, they don't meet the standards. So if you want to look at the eclipse and you need to get glasses, I suggest you go on, and I'm just saying WTAE because I watched it. They have on their website a list of very legitimate places,
Mhm.
because we have plenty of time now. We have a week where, if your kids want to see it or whatever, you can do it, but don't just, there are some on Amazon that they have not been vetted, and some may be fine, but some may not, and you could really do some damage to your eyes. So we won't be able to talk about it on Monday because it will have already happened. So I'm just giving that warning.
Also worth the 2-hour trip up to like Meadville.
Or Cleveland,
just to get
Ohio.
to,
Cleveland, Ohio is
totality.
the big.
Well, that's the
And
thing.
Erie.
Erie has like 2 minutes, 40 seconds. Meadville has like 2 minutes, 30 seconds,
Mhm.
right? So for 10 less seconds,
Right.
you can save a bunch of
Right.
time and get rid of some of the chaos, right?
Right,
You don't have to go to the major city to see an eclipse, just to
Right.
see it, right? You can see it. And there's a number of sites that will tell you the amount of time and totality.
right.
You know,
And
so,
the Community Science Center, I think, is also doing something that day if you want to get even more involved. And I'm not sure what it is, but you can also call them for any more information. And to your point, I think they have the exact times.
oh
and
yeah, there's.
How
a
you're going
million-
to, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and one other thing I want to, again, give a shout out to Woodland Hills High School. Well, actually to our residents, they're doing Wonderland.
Yeah.
And it's such a big deal. We were the first in the country, as I've mentioned before, to give permission to do it. And now there is one other school, I believe it's in California, I'm not sure. But we're only one of two in the entire country, and we should all be very proud about that. But also, tickets are on sale, and I think they're gonna sell out. So it's the last weekend of April and the first weekend of May, so please call and get your tickets. And support our school district. And those wonderful kids that work so hard.
Yep.
And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Okay, you're happy I'm done, right?
No, this is very important information.
Right. Yes.
Anything else? Any other issues for discussion?
Nope.
All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
That's it?